Hello everyone and welcome to my little corner of the internet. My name's Michael and I'm bitten by a radioactive book. Today I want to talk about my June TBR, so all the books that I'm excited to read in June. So let's get started with the books I already began in May and I'm taking them over into June. The first of those is The Fox by Sherwood Smith. It's the second book in the Indus series. I wanted to read this in May, actually didn't get to it, and hope to get still caught up in Samantha's In the Club read. And to read The Fox and then maybe start with the third book in the series as well at the end of June. We will see if that plays out. The next book I've already started but haven't progressed in a lot is Dragonfly Falling by Adrian Tchaikovsky, and I'm still very intrigued by the whole idea of the different races having aspects of different kind of insects, the world being like a mashup of steampunk elements and fantasy magical elements. I hope to read the whole series still this year, but I really need to get started now with this second book. Another book with steampunk elements, with a lot of steampunk elements, I'm currently 1/3 into, is The Daedalus Insolent by Michael J. Martinez. It's a very interesting idea. It's a dual kind of narrative. We have a science fiction story of a science crew that does mineral exploration and mining on Mars. And then on Mars there are earthquakes, and on Mars there shouldn't be earthquakes, and so they have to investigate that. And on the other hand, we get a very weird story is set in the 18th century of ships, sailing ships that are able to sail the stars. And the humans colonized the planets of the solar system, and I think even further beyond. And so the Spanish, the English and the French are in a war in space, but with normal ships. So it's kind of a mashup of master and commander in space with steampunk elements that is very intriguing and interesting. And yeah, so far it's really good and I hope to finish it soon. The next book I'm taking with me is also about ships. It's the first book in Robin Hobb's Life Ship Traders, called Ship of Magic. I already started this last month and I'm like a third into it as well. This is a family telling, I would say, very character driven, in a world where ships can become sentient and talk and interact with people. These ships are very valuable, and we're following a trading family that has one of these ships. And yeah, it's more about the relationships actually of the people in the family, and that is very interesting and very intense. If you know Robin Hobb from her Farseer books, you know that she's very good in getting very deep into characterization, into relationships, into the psychology of human relationships. And it's the same here. The very interesting thing is that this one is not a single POV first-person narrative as the Farseer books, but it has a multi-POV cast, and this is something I actually prefer. And yeah, therefore I'm really intrigued by having Robin Hobb's very great writing now in kind of a setting I enjoy even more than the setting in the Farseer books. And the last book I'm taking with me into June is Thieftaker by D.B. Jackson. It plays in Boston, and it's around the American Revolutionary War. It's set a bit before, and it's kind of a Dresden Files in these times. So we have Ethan Cale, our main character, and he is a conjurer, so he can do magic, and he is a thief-taker, and that means you can hire him when something is stolen from you, and he will investigate and bring the culprit to justice and hopefully bring back what was stolen from you. And so the kind of setup is really very familiar if you know, like the Dresden Files, a slightly older male protagonist who is a magic user and he's working cases, and that is really interesting. I'm like 40% into it. I'm really enjoying it so far, and it seems to shape up to be a very great and interesting series. Now, let's head into the books I'm going to start in June, hopefully. First off, we have Vela by John Gwynne. If you have seen my wrap-up yesterday, this was actually, or the first book in the series, Malice, was actually my favorite read of May. So I really hope that this trend continues and that this book is as brilliant as I hope it will be. The series has like very stereotypical fantasy elements: a boy with a destiny, epic conspiracy, multiple kingdoms, there's giants, there are magical artifacts that the characters crave after or look for. All very familiar, but mixed up in a really satisfying kind of way. The third book in the series, Ruin, comes out in July, so I hope to finish the book in June so I can continue with the series in July. Next up, we have 3 Parts Dead by Max Gladstone. The first book in the Craft sequence, and this is a series I'm really looking forward to. I'm going to buddy read this with Lindsay from Lindsay Ray, and the basic idea of the world seems to be that it's a secondary world but with a contemporary feeling, so it seems to be more of a modern world, but it has kind of magic in it. And yeah, I think this first book is also, it has something to do with law, and the magic has to do with law, and inheriting a sword or something like that. So it sounds very unique and very intriguing. You will learn more about this definitely as we progress through the book, and so far it seems that this Craft sequence, all the books are kind of standalones, only set like in the same world, so you can pick up every book of those. 3 of them are out. And the 4th book comes out in July, and again, this is something where I wanted to read like the first book now to see if I like the series overall, because I have like the first 3 books already, and if I like this one I will get the 4th book probably in July as well. Next up, we have Best Served Cold by Joe Abercrombie. I'm going to buddy read this with Lindsay and with Sarah from Books and Junk. All of us have read like the first Law trilogy by Joe Abercrombie, and we really liked that. And he's written 3 more books set in the same world, but all of them are standalones. And with each of those books, he tried something different, and said he wanted to combine like another kind of genre or storytelling with his grimdark fantasy. And Best Served Cold is his attempt on combining his style with a thriller kind of writing. Yeah, and I'm really looking forward to see how that is going to play out. Next up, we have Those Above. And Those Above is a book I'm going to buddy read with Caitlin from KDG. Same as with Vela by John Gwynne. Actually, we're reading both of those together, and I think some more books as well. And those above is a book that came out this year, and it has the idea that those above are kind of godly beings, and humans wanted to up or rise up against them at some point in history, and that uprising failed, and now there is like a new chance for the humans to rise up against them, and the book is about this. I don't know much about the plot. I think I've read the plot like a year ago when it was announced, and I set it on my wish list and bought it, and yeah, now I'm going to read it, and we'll see how that's going to play out. Another buddy read that I have with multiple people like Lindsay, Sarah, Caitlin, PT from PT Hilton, and Amanda from the Marvelous Reading Room is that we're trying to read the Dresden Files series this year. We're trying to read 2 books a month. And I've already read the first 2 books of the Dresden Files in the past, so I will be joining this read with the 3rd book in the middle of the month. Yeah, and I'm really looking forward. The Dresden Files, I think, are really well known because it's one of the biggest urban fantasy series. I think the biggest that has a male protagonist. Yeah, and I'm really looking forward to get into it. And it wouldn't be a Michael reading month without at least trying to read something with steampunk in it. So I'm going to continue Mark Hodder's Burton and Swinburne series with the 2nd book, The Curious Case of the Clockwork Man. I'm also buddy reading this with Caitlin. I'm really looking forward to it because it was the first book in the series, was one of my favorite books of last year, and yeah, I hope that we're going to get to read a lot of the series this year as well. 5 books are out, the 6th is coming out in August, I think, so yeah, there's plenty of material by Mark Hodder, and I really hope that I'm as blown away by the 2nd book as I was by the 1st. Next up we have The Autumn Republic by Brian McClellan. It is the 3rd and concluding volume in his Powder Mages trilogy. I think you might have seen the reviews a lot of the science fiction and fantasy booktubers did of the 1st or the 2nd book. So this will be also a buddy read I'm doing with Sarah from Books and Junk and Sana from Inkbones Books. We really enjoyed like the first 2 books and want to see how this is going to end. This is flintlock fantasy, so it is fantasy with an element of guns and yeah, powder. We have different kinds of magic. We have like the powder mages who can manipulate black powder, ammunition, stuff like that. We have more traditional fantasy like elementalist magic, not fantasy, like elementalist magic, and we have a very interesting idea that some people have certain necks, so they have just one like ability, but this ability can range, yeah, from like everything, like being a very a good cook or somebody who just doesn't have to sleep, so it has a bit of a feeling of a superhero. And speaking of superheroes, the fighting scenes in this book are often really cool. Brian McClellan has a talent for yeah, setting up really cool over the rooftop kind of superheroic fights on the one hand, but on the other hand also like very military focused traditional battles of that era. so that is very interesting as well. Going into the series, you have to know that there will be like a very heavy focus on military, and so you might have to at least not be bored by it. But overall, this is a very interesting read so far. And speaking of flintlock fantasy with a very militaristic like approach, we have The Shadow Throne by Django Wexler, which is the second book in his Shadow Campaign series. I'm also buddy reading this with Sana, Sarah, PT, and Caitlin. For me personally, this series was a bit better than or is a bit better than the Brian McClellan series. I think in the Brian McClellan series, I've rated the first book 4 stars, the second one 3 stars, and this one by Django Wexler, I've rated 5 stars, the first one, and so now I'm really looking forward to get into the second book. The thing that stood out for me in his series was the characterization, because the two main characters we follow, Winter, who is a girl, and she kind of hides that she is a girl, so she's able to fight in the army. And she shows us the life in the army from a grunt perspective. And then we have Marcus, I think it is, and he's more in a commanding level of the army. He's a captain, I think, captain or lieutenant. And so we see more of the like overall plot and the decision making from his point of view, and that works really well. The first book wrapped up really interestingly, and it seems that we now have a change of scenery between the two books, and yeah, I'm really looking forward to see how that plays out, because in July again the next book is going to be available, the final and concluding volume, and we want to read that as well, and yeah, therefore we're reading the second one in June. And basically it's the same story over again for the next book, which is The Tower Lord by Anthony Ryan. Again, a book where I've read the first book, rated it 5 stars, and really enjoyed it. Now I want to read the second one in June. I'm going to buddy read this with Lindsay and Sarah. And again, this is in preparation for the third book that's going to come out in, again, July. July is a crazy month for books. I think I should make a video about all the books that come out in July, because it's crazy. I think I have like 12 books on my list for July. Wow, July. People. No, but getting back to The Tower Lord, it is a very bold book, I think, because Anthony Ryan had a huge hit with Bloodsong, and Bloodsong was a single POV story. It was told in sometimes first person, but mostly third person, but only a single POV, and the characterization, the coming of age story, was really brilliant. And now with the second book, the author decides to break up this kind of narrative and have his main character from the first book being one of, I think, 4 POVs that he's using in The Tower Lord, and so I'm really interested to see how that works. I'm really intrigued by the idea, and I love multi-POV books, so I hope that it is even more for me than the first book, if that is even possible. Yeah, and again, a series I hope to finish then up in July and see where it is going. And last but not least, if you've seen my wrap-up video of May, I've read The Dream Thieves by Maggie Stiefvater. A bit untypical for me. It's a YA series, contemporary with some supernatural elements, but with very good characterization, very good and sometimes even lyrical writing, and I'm buddy reading this with Sam from Novels and Nonsense and Jana from Penguin in a Blue Box, and we're going to read the third book in the series, Blue Lily, Lily Blue, or it's the other way around, I'm not quite sure, in June. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to this one as well. So that's it for today. I hope you liked this video. If you did, please hit the like button. If you want to see more of me, subscribe to my channel. And until next time, I hope you will get bitten by a really good book too. Bye.